The Way of Zen, by Alan Watts, explores Zen's origins in Chinese Taoism and its key principles. Watts aims to make Zen less mysterious for Western readers, breaking down its paradoxes and offering insights into this rich philosophy. What will you learn from this book? This book helps you understand the history and main ideas of Zen, an ancient Eastern philosophy. You'll learn that Zen is more than just calmness. It involves deep, sometimes confusing concepts. Alan Watts explains these ideas clearly, helping you see the world in a new way. Who should read this book? This book is for anyone curious about Zen and its teachings. If you want to deepen your understanding of peace and mindfulness, or if you've heard the term Zen and want to know more, this book is for you. The Way of Zen, the history and core principles of the Eastern philosophy of Zen. Spark 1. The roots of Zen, Taoism and Chinese philosophy. Zen, a word that has become quite common in Western conversations, is often associated with calmness, tranquility, and peace. However, this understanding barely scratches the surface of what Zen truly represents. To truly grasp the essence of Zen, we must first delve into its roots in Chinese philosophy, particularly Taoism. The concept of knowledge in Taoism, which laid the foundation for Zen Buddhism, is quite different from what we understand in the West. In our Western perspective, knowledge is often concrete and fact-based. However, Taoism recognizes a different kind of knowing, a knowing that goes beyond facts and explanations. Consider breathing, for instance. You know how to breathe, right? But if asked to explain the exact physiological processes involved in breathing, most people would be at a loss. Yet, no one would claim they don't know how to breathe. This kind of intuitive knowledge, which we possess without being able to explain it, is central to Taoist thought. The I Ching, or Book of Changes, is one of the earliest sources of Taoist thought. Written in China between 300 and 1200 BC, this book outlines a method of divination where an oracle predicts the future based on hexagram patterns observed in the environment. While this may seem irrational to modern minds, it raises an interesting question about our own decision-making processes. How often do we truly make decisions based on complete information? There's always more data we could gather, more factors we could consider. If we waited to have all the facts before making a decision, we'd never act at all. In reality, our decisions often come down to a feeling, an intuition about what's right. This is what Taoists would call being in the Tao, a state where your mind is clear and your intuition is at its most effective. This concept of clear-mindedness and trust in the mind's natural abilities became central to Zen philosophy. Just as we trust our tongue to taste without consciously controlling each muscle, Zen encourages us to trust our mind's innate capabilities. Spark 2. The birth of Buddhism, the Buddha's Enlightenment. Before we dive deeper into Zen, it's crucial to understand its overarching philosophy, Buddhism. The story of Buddha's enlightenment provides a fascinating insight into the core of Buddhist thought. According to tradition, after 7 years of intense meditation and ascetic practices, the Buddha found himself no closer to finding his true self. Exhausted and disillusioned, he decided to give up his strict regimen. He sat under a tree, ate some nourishing food, and in that moment of surrender, experienced a sudden clarity. The Buddha realized that as long as man continues to try to grasp what his own life is, he will fail. This moment of sudden awakening became a central aspect of Zen philosophy. It's worth noting that the first Buddhist text, the Pali Canon, wasn't written until about 400 years after Buddha's death. This makes it challenging to discern Buddha's exact views, but we can still extract the most important ideas. At the heart of Indian thought, including Buddhism, is the concept of God's self-sacrifice, or Atmayajna. This idea suggests that in giving birth to the world, God is destroyed and fractured into many pieces. Each being contains an aspect of God, and our life's purpose is to reintegrate with the One. In Buddhism, knowing yourself means knowing your original identity, God. To achieve this, you need to disentangle yourself from all forms of identification. You are not your body, your thoughts, your feelings, or your social roles. This emphasis on negative knowledge, knowing what you aren't rather than what you are, can be perplexing to Western minds accustomed to concrete definitions. However, this approach acknowledges the fluid nature of reality. Take, for example, the start of World War I. While we might say it began on August 4, 1914, a historian could point to causes dating back much earlier. This illustrates how our divisions of events, things, and facts are often arbitrary human constructs rather than reflections of reality itself. In Buddhist thought, these artificial divisions are called Maya, or illusion. The goal of life, according to Buddhism, is to liberate ourselves from these illusions and see reality as it truly is. Spark 3. Mahayana Buddhism, a new approach to enlightenment. While traditional Buddhism discouraged questions about the nature of self and the universe, considering them irrelevant to the path of liberation, a new school of thought emerged that was unwilling to leave these questions unanswered. This school, known as Mahayana Buddhism, developed between 100 and 300 BC and played a crucial role in the later development of Zen. Mahayana Buddhism sought to make enlightenment more accessible to everyone, not just ascetics and monks. However, this doesn't mean that the path to enlightenment in Mahayana is easy. In fact, it involves some complex and seemingly paradoxical ideas. The core of Mahayana thought revolves around the impossibility of grasping reality. If reality itself can't be grasped, how can one hope to grasp enlightenment? This leads to the conclusion that enlightenment can't be viewed as an object to be obtained. Furthermore, Mahayana posits that since reality is illusory, the ego must also be an illusion. This means that there is no individual you that can attain enlightenment. Following this logic, if enlightenment is not an object to be attained, and if no individual entities exist, then we must already be in a state of enlightenment. This creates a paradox. If we're already enlightened, then seeking enlightenment is pointless. But even deciding not to seek enlightenment is still a form of seeking. The true follower of Mahayana must free themselves from the very motivation to attain enlightenment. This belief, that we are already Buddha and that seeking to become Buddha is denying our true nature, became central to Zen philosophy. It's a challenging concept that goes against our instincts to strive and achieve, but it's at the heart of Zen's approach to enlightenment. Spark 4. The birth of Zen in China. While the traditional story attributes the introduction of Zen to China to the Indian monk Bodhidharma in 520 AD, the historical accuracy of this account is questionable. A more likely origin of Zen can be traced to the teachings of a young Chinese monk named Sung Chao, who lived around 400 AD. Sung Chao introduced several doctrines that would become central to Zen philosophy. One of the most significant was his view on time and change. While Westerners tend to see life as a progression, day becomes night, winter becomes spring. Sung Chao proposed that every moment stands on its own, with no relation to what came before or after. This idea of the present moment being the only reality became a cornerstone of Zen thought. A few centuries later, another influential monk named Huineng introduced the concept of qi. This term refers to the demonstration of Zen through non-symbolic actions or words. In practice, this might involve a Zen master responding to a deep spiritual question with a casual remark about the weather. These responses aren't meant to be explained. Either you immediately understand the point being made, or you don't. For example, when asked about the nature of spirit, the monk Chao Chao simply remarked, "This morning it's windy again." Such responses might seem nonsensical to the uninitiated, but they serve a purpose in Zen philosophy. Whatever the Zen master says or does is thought to be an expression of his Buddha nature, appearing spontaneously without forethought. Huineng passed his philosophy on to 5 disciples before his death. The teachings of 2 of these disciples evolved into the 2 principal schools of Zen that still exist in Japan today. These schools, while differing in some aspects, both maintain the core principles of Zen. The emphasis on the present moment, the spontaneity of enlightenment, and the idea that we are already Buddha. Spark 5. Zen and the illusions of the mind. One of the key aspects of Zen philosophy is its approach to happiness and the nature of reality. While many people consider the pursuit of happiness as their ultimate goal in life, Zen views this pursuit as fundamentally flawed. The problem, according to Zen, lies in the false premise that it's possible to experience only the good without any of the bad. Zen uses the analogy of turning from side to side on an uncomfortable bed. You turn to the left side seeking comfort, but soon that side becomes as uncomfortable as the right. The very concept of comfort only exists because we understand discomfort. This doesn't mean that we're helpless victims of our circumstances. In fact, Zen posits that we and our circumstances are inseparable. On a hot summer day, you're not sweating because it's hot outside. The sweating is the heat. Your experience of the heat and the heat itself are one and the same. This principle extends to our understanding of self. When asked to describe yourself, you might list various attributes or experiences. But Zen questions whether any of these descriptors are real in the truest sense. Our minds construct a symbolic version of ourself that doesn't actually exist in any tangible way. Instead, Zen proposes that the real you is simply the sum of all the things you're aware of at this very moment. This concept can be challenging to grasp as it goes against our ingrained notions of identity and self. By helping us disintegrate these mental illusions, Zen aims to bring us closer to experiencing reality as it truly is, unfiltered by our preconceptions and mental constructs. This doesn't mean rejecting all thoughts or emotions, but rather recognizing them for what they are, temporary phenomena arising in our consciousness, rather than fixed aspects of our identity. Spark 6. The Zen approach, spontaneity and naturalness. A central tenet of Zen is the emphasis on naturalness and spontaneity. This might seem counterintuitive to those accustomed to setting goals and striving for improvement, but in Zen, the ideal state is one of aimlessness, essentially doing nothing. This doesn't mean being lazy or unproductive. Rather, it's about allowing things to unfold naturally, without forcing or striving. A cat doesn't try to be anything other than a cat, and your ears don't try to do anything other than hear. Zen encourages us to allow our minds to operate in the same way, as spontaneously and naturally as possible. In Zen, whatever emotion you naturally express in response to a circumstance is valuable precisely because of its naturalness. There's a story of a Zen monk who cried upon hearing of a relative's death. When criticized for this seemingly un-monk-like behavior, he replied, "Don't be stupid. I'm weeping because I want to weep." This illustrates the Zen principle that our natural responses, whatever they may be, are right simply because they're natural. This principle of naturalness extends to our words and actions as well. When Zen master Yunmen was asked to name the ultimate secret of Buddhism, his response was simply, dumpling. This seemingly nonsensical answer is an example of the mind acting completely on its own, revealing an underlying truth that can only be expressed in that moment, in that way. Spontaneity is also key to the Zen concept of satori, or sudden awakening. Satori isn't necessarily a grand moment of total enlightenment, but rather a burst of insight. It could be a profound realization about the nature of reality, or something as simple as suddenly remembering a long-forgotten name. However, it's important to note that Zen's emphasis on spontaneity doesn't mean giving in to every impulse. Instead, it's about eliminating mental blocks and allowing the mind to operate in its freest, most natural state. This state of mind, free from artificial constraints and preconceptions, is considered the most conducive to experiencing reality as it truly is. Spark 7. Zen meditation. Observing the world as it is. Meditation plays a crucial role in Zen practice, but its approach differs significantly from other forms of Buddhist or spiritual meditation. In Zen, the goal of meditation isn't to achieve a particular state of mind or to gain some special understanding. In fact, having any goal at all is considered counterproductive. This might seem strange to those familiar with other meditation practices that aim to purify or clear the mind. But in Zen, our nature is already pure. It's already Buddha. Striving to purify it actually contaminates it with desire. Zen meditation, known as Zazen in Japanese, is about sitting and observing the world exactly as it is. It's based on the understanding that the world exists whether we're actively thinking about it or not. The practice of Zazen allows us to experience this reality directly. A helpful analogy is to think of the mind as a muddy river. As we go about our daily lives, our minds become muddied with thoughts, worries, and distractions. But when muddy water is left alone, the dirt and sediment naturally sink to the bottom, leaving the water clear. Similarly, when we sit in Zazen, we allow our minds to settle naturally, without forcing or striving. It's important to note that Zazen isn't about trying to think about nothing, nor is it about concentrating on any particular thing like your breath. Instead, it's about maintaining a quiet awareness of whatever is happening in the present moment. You and your environment are one, and you observe without any particular purpose in mind. In Zen schools, students practice Zazen to cultivate a clear and sharp mind, which is necessary for answering koans. Koans are puzzling questions or statements used in Zen training, often seeming paradoxical or nonsensical. For example, a student might be asked, "Take the 4 divisions of Tokyo out of your sleeve." The solution might be as simple as taking out a paper handkerchief and dividing it into four. These koans aren't meant to be solved through logical reasoning, but rather through a flash of intuition that comes from a clear, uncluttered mind. The practice of Zen helps cultivate this mental state, allowing for these moments of insight to occur naturally. Spark 8. Zen in Art, the Power of Emptiness. Zen philosophy has had a profound influence on various forms of art, particularly in Japan. The Zen approach to art is encapsulated in the saying, "One showing is worth 100 sayings." This reflects the Zen belief in the power of direct experience over intellectual understanding. One of the most distinctive features of Zen art is its use of empty space. What Westerners might perceive as emptiness or lack is, in Zen, a representation of boundless freedom. This emptiness is not a void, but rather a space full of potential and meaning. In painting, this principle is beautifully exemplified in the sumi-e style. Sumi paintings are done in black ink, with the tone varied by the amount of water mixed with the ink. Typically, only a small part of the canvas is painted, while the rest may be treated with a gentle ink wash or left blank. This technique allows the empty space to come alive, often appearing as if shrouded in a gentle mist. The small, painted part of the picture seems to arise spontaneously from nothing, mirroring the Zen principle of spontaneity. The emptiness is not just a background, but an integral part of the artwork, as important as the painted elements. Zen poetry, particularly haiku, also demonstrates this principle of saying much with little. A good haiku doesn't try to explicitly state its meaning, but rather throws a stone into the still waters of the listener's mind, creating ripples of association and meaning. It says just enough to be evocative, allowing the listener's mind to do much of the interpretive work. For example, consider this haiku by Matsuo Basho. An old silent pond. A frog jumps into the pond. Splash. Silence again. In just a few words, this haiku captures a moment in time, evoking not just a visual image but also sounds and a sense of the eternal cycle of disturbance and return to tranquility. Zen influence can also be seen in architecture, especially in garden design. A Zen garden aims to evoke the atmosphere of nature without overwhelming the senses with ornamentation. Even in a garden without water features, the arrangement of rocks and sand might suggest the flow of a mountain stream to the viewer's mind. Whether in painting, poetry, or architecture, Zen art seeks to bring the viewer face to face with the present moment. By observing the momentariness and spontaneity in a haiku or a sumi painting, we're encouraged to liberate ourselves from our usual perception of time and to comprehend the extraordinary fact that the only reality is in the present moment. In conclusion, Zen offers a unique perspective on life, reality, and the nature of self. It challenges our usual ways of thinking and perceiving, encouraging us to let go of our preconceptions and experience the world directly, as it is. Whether through meditation, art, or daily life, Zen invites us to embrace the present moment, recognize our inherent Buddha nature, and find freedom in the natural flow of existence. While its concepts may seem paradoxical or challenging at first, Zen offers a path to a deeper understanding of reality and a more spontaneous, natural way of being in the world.